It's Thursday, it's 8 o'clock, and it's the Big Detecting Show. Hello, Mr. Gaylor. How are you all?
Hello, Dave. I'm fine. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. You all right?
I am. Are you?
I am tonight. No technical issues. All tickety-boo. I had a few technical issues last week. But yeah, all good. Hope everyone's okay. Oh, windy weather, isn't it? Well, we have...
Wait a minute. You.
No.
Yes, you there. You there. Share the show. Share it. Yes, it's windy. I thought it was me, but it's windy.
Yeah. No, it's very windy. So
you're getting called names in the chat already.
Dave and Adrian. Yeah. I've had nearly 50 years of that. In this current society, it's quite a good name to have. But yeah, the wind, we've had a lot of rain down here, so we've had a lot of wind, so it'll be nice and dry the fields this weekend.
Yeah, wind's got up here, yeah.
I went detecting Friday last week and Sunday and took the dog with me, detecting dog, badger, and dream, didn't go more than 10 foot away, find a target, dog starts digging the hole, and took the legend out.
Did the dog actually dig something up of consequence?
Yeah. Well, not really. No, I got a signal. It helped dig a hammer down, which I found the legend amazing in iron infested sites. It is really good, really, really good. And I use Sid Perry's program. I've forgotten what it's called, and that was lovely.
Sid Perry's program, it's called, isn't it?
And I think it's called something. But yeah, it's an interesting machine, I will say. Early days, but a very interesting machine. But yeah, and the fields were lovely just before the farmers seeded them, and they're dead flat, and it was lovely on Sunday, and I had a beautiful day out. Didn't find that much, but yeah. And you still can't get out because you got.
No, I went out on. I struggled. I went out. I couldn't do more than an hour. Adrian ended up sitting on a down telegraph pole talking shit to horses, and I had to go home. I wasn't good at all. What did I find? A button. What's that there? Right. It's like a metal. You know the bottles, the old bottles. Like a lid off an old bottle.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of bottles in there that have been dug up, and it's not dissimilar to them. Some sort of ferrily thing off a not ferrily thing. It's got actually might not be, might be. You know, off a horse's harness, studs on the back.
Oh, you found stuff though.
One of them.
Yeah.
Half of one of them.
Yeah.
Love them. And medieval, post-medieval pot leg type thing.
Oh, nice. I love finding pot legs. Love them. Bang.
Aren't they?
But yeah, so I'm going to go out tomorrow. Is it? No, it's Thursday, isn't it? I'm going out Saturday. So,
because I wasn't feeling too good, it was just winding me up, to be honest. The fact that I don't know the Vanquish obviously very well still, and it was just winding me up because I've not took tablets and just in a bit of a mess. So I ended up departing early. I just couldn't do it anymore, to be honest. We were walking up hills, and it's just no good when you've got broken flippers, is it?
We don't have those in Essex, so I'm fortunate in that. But yeah,
but then the next day, that was with Steve and Shane Oldcroft, Staffordshire Searcher. They both find bundles of stuff, some beautiful tokens with great markings on. And then Shane goes out on Sunday and he rings me up all in a fluster. I'm like, what's up, mate? And he's like, ooh! I'm like, all right, calm down. And he's found his first gold, and it was an absolutely stunning, chunky gold ring. Beautiful.
Yeah. I've seen it on eBay. No, I haven't. But yeah, well done, Shane. Top man. It does come gold eventually, hopefully, to those.
He was straight down the Monday morning. He was straight down to the Teresa Gilman, the finance liaison officer at Staffordshire. No, Hanley Potteries Museum in Stoke, Hanley. So he's straight down there with it all. So there you go.
A little bit of few things. Those in Essex, we've got a new flow now. I've forgotten the name though. But I emailed her the other day and she hasn't come back. But we've got a new flow in Essex. We haven't had one for nearly a year, which has been a bit of a pain. And Mr. Cook, Gary Cook, there's a bit of an update on the Rodney Cook one-day events, which, the weekend is good, but the one-day events are really good. The one-day event that was on the 10th of April that was cancelled because of the land. The grass is going to be too long because of the weather. Has now moved to the 29th of May, and it's going to be freshly cut. And
29th of May?
Yeah. From the 8th
to 10th. It's getting put up 6 weeks back.
Yeah, because of the crops and all that malarkey. And he didn't want people to detect on rubbish ground. But everyone's been emailed and told that it's changed, and 99% have accepted it, and the odd few can't make it. But he's actually opened more tickets for that on the 29th of May. Quite a few tickets. He's managed to get more land. So if you go to rodneycookmemorial.co.uk, click on events, there's more tickets there. It's 25 quid for the day, and there's toilets there, burger van and all that. Plus, he's also opened up another one-day event on the 18th of September near Marlborough in Wiltshire, which is just near where...
Sexy town.
Well, it's near where the Rodney Cook rally is held. So
it's not just that. For those who know the area, you've got Ave 3 minutes away, Stonehenge the other way.
Yeah,
you've got a ruck of history there.
if you don't know Gary Cook, look at his Facebook profile and see, well, if you can, I don't know if you've got it open, but the stuff he finds is bizarre, and everyone
phenomenal.
Goes yeah. So the 18th of September tickets don't go on sale till Saturday, 9 o'clock this Saturday, but the one-day event on the 29th of May, they're available now, and they're selling very quickly.
Yeah.
I think they've sold like 60 today, and it hasn't been heavily publicised. So, yeah.
And don't forget, in the coming weeks, when we've set it all up and we've got all our pigeons in a row, we'll be doing a charity draw, which is, I think we're doing it £1 per entry, aren't we? Something like that. Nice and easy, cheap and cheerful draw, where winners can get. Is it a weekend ticket for the Rodney Cook? It was, wasn't it?
Yes, a weekend ticket for Rodney Cook. And
weekend ticket for Detecticon.
And we'll also
individual tickets for Detecticon.
Yeah.
Individual tickets for Peaky Finders. And I've got to speak to Mark Becker. Hopefully he's going to help us out as well. And then what we're going to do, if Mark Becker obviously comes on board as well, at the moment we'll split the proceeds 50-50 between Detecticon and Rodney Cook. That's all proceeds. We won't, no money to ourselves. If Mark comes on, we'll split it 3 ways so they can have access to the 3 charities. So
we'll pack in there some Spinks coin books, annual subscriptions, Treasure Hunting magazine, and some metal detecting
helicopter.
Yeah.
Helicopter.
Yeah, and some cheese. And also tonight, mustn't forget, because we put it on the Book of Faces. Anyone who's got a Knox, 600 or 800, you can win one of these from Detecting Innovations aluminium arm cup. Really solid. I've got one on my Equinox. Really great little bit of gear, worth about 35. 40.
Shane's just had some put on his Knox. This and what you're going to show now. And I thought they were phenomenal. Absolutely brilliant. I don't know why the companies don't do them themselves.
Well, it's a bit like IKEA, isn't it? They don't want things. Do you know, I've lost one. Oh, no, it's here. And
right
also,
in front of you.
This in this month's Treasure Hunting magazine, I wrote a review on them. The arm cup. You don't think it's something you want, but it was lovely, really solid, and you can tread on it, jump on it, and hit people around the head with it. No, you can't do that. And then there's this, which doesn't look very exciting, but this enables you to. Oh, my face. This enables you to fold up your control box on your Equinox 800. So rather than it poking out your rucksack, this fits in about 2 minutes, and you can just flip your control box.
You've gone. You were all ethereal then, and you're not ethereal now. Anyway, shall we? We've kept our guest waiting a little while longer than we normally would. So let's. We'll introduce him by his channel's promotional video. So tonight's guest, Mr. James Balme, returning. He was on our 100th episode. So he's returning tonight with lots of news and lots of updates. James, good evening.
Good evening, Dave. Good evening, Adrian. You okay?
Hi, James. Yeah, thanks for
How's
coming on.
Going?
Marvellous, marvellous. James, watching that video, it's like spotting where I've been for me. You've got my favourite church at the very start. You've got one of my favourite pubs in the middle. And you've got one of my favourite places in Llangollen right at the end. Lovely video, that. Especially for people like me who know all these places.
Very professional, James. Very professional.
Oh, James is still...
Oh, we're back, yeah.
Oh, there he is. There he is. There he is.
You guys just froze.
That's what you did.
I was just saying,
the windows open.
James, very professional intro there, James. Very nice. It was like watching something on Channel 4 or something. It was very good. Well done.
Thanks very much indeed. Yeah. Just part of the work that I'm doing, and obviously at the moment, as you know, I took the plunge last January 21, took redundancy and decided to go for it full time. It's a bit of a struggle last year. We got through, but we made lots of brand new content and it's really rolling forward now and it's picking up quickly.
Obviously been watching in that. Sorry, Adrian, I'll let you go first.
No, go on, David.
I know I've already said to you.
All right. Sorry, James.
Come on,
I don't know. I know about you, James. I've subscribed to your channel and watch your clips, your videos on YouTube. But I don't know, people who are new in the chat tonight, if you just want to give a brief, you said about taking early redundancy, but about what you actually do. It's probably
basically, I've been doing the films off and on for years, and as many people know, I actually presented an episode of Time Team back in 2006 with the team over at Warburton in Cheshire. That sort of sparked me off into enjoying filming, presenting and making programs. YouTube was born around about 2007. And that's when I decided it was the chance for me to record history and to get it out there and start sharing it. And over the years, the channel's grown with YouTube to such point that this year, luckily, I've started now doing stuff for the BBC. I did the Mike Shaft breakfast show a few Sundays ago at BBC Radio Manchester. Fantastic experience going into the studios at Media City, somewhere I've always wanted to go. But a really strange story, which is just a coincidence. When I decided in 2019 I was going to get back into the filmmaking, I got a new car and I decided I was going to get myself a little private reg, which was J222 BBC. And in my mind, it meant James in 2020. I ended up on the programme in February 22 at the BBC. Did it. Can go and change the number plate now. But yeah, it's been really good. And the spin-off from doing the BBC Radio Manchester is that I've now started doing stuff for BBC Radio Merseyside, history features. I did one last month, which was all fantastic place to visit, and they've asked me now to do more for them this year and to do some personal stuff. And I'm doing a live broadcast with Radio Merseyside at a special location at the end of May, which I can't say too much about at the moment because it's revealing a massive archaeological discovery.
Fantastic. Sorry, James, you broke up when you said where you were with BBC Merseyside.
Yeah, with BBC Merseyside, I did the Birkenhead Priory.
Right.
Did a whole feature about that and highlighted some of that with the film that I've done there. That's gone really well. And they've now, of course, offered me some more features in the future. And then in June, as I say, we're doing a special live feature on air at a secret archaeological site that I'm going to be presenting at on that day, really.
Do you know, James, I worked with BBC Radio Merseyside for 2 years on the Roger Lyons show back in the early 2000s, and it is a fantastic experience to get involved with them, and it opens so many doors and avenues that you wouldn't necessarily get into in the past. I mean, I'm sure you'll get so many people come to you with more stories and more places to go to that you've not really thought, oh yeah, I could go there. It'll open some fantastic avenues.
Yeah. Well, the one where I'm doing this special, it's actually going to be a very special episode of Rambles Through History, probably one of the biggest and most sort of concentrated one I've done. And this is what we're also going to work with BBC Radio Merseyside to highlight this massive archaeological discovery. A film will be released at the end of May, and I'm doing a 2-page special feature in Cheshire Life about it in the June issue to actually coincide with the Queen's Jubilee as well.
Fantastic. I look forward to it because obviously that's going to be more or less local to me within a short period of driving. So I'll be very much interested in hearing that and reading about that.
Yeah.
So
well, I was going to say the only reason I'm keeping a cap on this next film is that it's got to tie in obviously with radio broadcasts and magazine publication. So it's like any TV program. You can't really say much about it until we're ready to go and sort of align everything together. But don't worry, you'll hear a lot about it when it comes out.
I look forward to it.
Yeah.
So how is the YouTube channel going, James? Has that been growing slowly?
It's been growing steadily. It was a bit slow between, say, 2018 and 19 because I was looking after Mum. She was poorly. But when I kicked it back into touch and got it running again in 2020, it really is going nice and steadily. And it's getting probably about 50, 60 subscribers a month. Now, not necessarily we see this. People say, oh, God, I've got 20,000 subscribers. I know people with 30,000 subscribers with a tenth of the views that I've got. So YouTube work on the number of views, length of views rather than subscribers, because people can subscribe, watch one film. They don't unsubscribe, but they never come back. So they always base it on the traffic coming through and the number of films that are being uploaded.
It's a true point. We had a guy last week, Chris Rogers, a metal detectorist. He's got 118,000 subscribers, but since the new algorithms and certain content that he posted, nothing untoward, but it wasn't that related to his channel, he's not getting as many views, and you don't get alert notifications. So it's a tricky old one. If you stick at what you do, like you're doing, you end up with more views because your content is relevant to it's a very awkward.
I look at mine. I've got 3,500 subscribers, but 1.4 million views. So
exactly.
It works the other way, really. It depends what your content is, like you say, and if each film sort of links to the next one, that sort of thing.
How did you find the last couple of years with COVID, James? Were you allowed to go in churches, or what happened there?
I was very lucky in many ways because I was doing a lot of filming outside the churches and flying around the churches with the drones and going into some of the churches. Some of the churches locked down, you couldn't go in, but there were other churches that weren't going to be used for 6 months or whatever. And with special permission, I could go into that church on my own with nobody else, as long as I followed all the protocols, because there was nobody in the churches. I wasn't bringing anything to spread it. And everywhere that I film is normally way out in the countryside, so it's fairly quiet anyway, but it didn't really affect it. In some ways, you could say it actually helped. It helped nurture relationships between more and more churches. And what's happened is, as I do each church, these churches are taking the film and putting it on their websites and on the Church Near You website. So it's spreading that way. But what was really good last year is the National Churches Trust and Explore Churches got in touch with me about what I was doing. Wanted to use a lot of my films for Cheshire and asked me would I help promote the history and heritage of the ancient churches, especially across Cheshire. And they've just relaunched a brand new website now for the National Churches Trust in London and given my own personal page on there. It's got all my stuff on there. So that's another boost for the future.
Fantastic.
Good. But as you say, Dave, it's not who you go to. You do something for someone, you do something different. There might be somebody there that's seen what you're doing. They ask you, can you try this, or would you like to do that? And as you say, you can get a lead from nowhere, or you can move forward when you wouldn't expect it.
Yeah. And also, I think last time you were on the show, James, you've got a metal detector, haven't you, still?
I've got 2 of them hiding under the bed.
Yeah.
I get them out when I can.
I wish I could keep mine under the bed. Mind you, I'll probably damage the shafts. Got it in. Have you been out at all in detecting recently? Because you seem really busy, like with your filming.
This is the problem, you see, because I want to get out there, and we're trying to get out there, But as you say, with such tight schedules on filming, editing, and what have you, it's harder. But I think what's going to happen this year, especially when we come to the crops being lifted, I'm going to go back to several sites that I did a few years ago and do them all again. And possibly this time take the cameras out and do some films around that too, because they work really well.
Do you drop that in the conversation when you're at a sort of near a church or something and sort of farmers?
Sometimes, yeah, because you'll sometimes find that the church actually owns quite a bit of land around the outside of the church, so that can help. But if you go to my channel and go back to some of the early days, the films in 2008, 9, 10, 12, they're nearly all films of me out in the fields, metal detecting and different things coming up, and especially some of the Roman sites that I was working on at the time. And what you can also find on there, if there's any Time Team fans listening, is when I did Time Team, I took all my cameras with me and got permission to film myself. So I was actually doing behind the scenes filming stuff you won't have ever seen on any of the programs. And if you actually go to my channel, there's a playlist dedicated to Time Team, and it's all the stuff behind the scenes with all the different people. So that's worth a look too.
And obviously mentioning Time Team this weekend is the second batch of episodes from the new series as well.
It is,
so
heavily,
definitely heavily involving metal detectorists this episode, because it's Keith Westcott's involvement. It's the site that he discovered.
Good. Because that was the problem when I got my program. The whole program of the dig was based a lot on the things that I had found and excavated over the years. But it was also what you never really saw in the background on that program, which they didn't explain, is that it wasn't me just saying, I did find the site and I did find a lot of the stuff, but I also did an excavation with Manchester University Archaeological Unit twice and another group before Time Team ever arrived. So they were actually digging not only on what I was pulling out of the ground, but previous results from earlier excavations. So that's the main reason they came, to see what they could find.
Yeah, and you've also been busy saving relics as well, haven't you?
Oh, I'm a beggar for that, Dave. Anywhere and everywhere. It's surprising what you can find. Really is surprising what you can find if you look around hard enough. And I'm not talking on eBay. Yes, I get some things from eBay, a few bits, but I'm talking about your antique emporiums, your car boots, whatever. And I've had some pretty good finds over the last few years. Definitely.
And not particularly far from you, where Chelford's back open, because I was there last week, car boot.
And how much is that to get on nowadays?
How much, mate? There's two of them now. They've gone up against each other. It's a £1 to enter and £5 to stall. So it's gone like that. And they're as big as they used to be. It's a family thing. There was a family split. The dad died. The stepmom went on one way and the son went on the other. So on one side of the road is the son's car boot and the other side is the stepmom's car boot. It used to be one big. Well, it used to be the biggest in Europe, Chelford car boot.
Yeah, it used to block the roads for 2 or 3 hours, didn't it?
It did.
People trying to get on and off it.
I end up coming away.
I do search. Sorry, Adrian.
That's why I normally end I end up coming away with like a broken foot spar or something at a boot sale. So I try to avoid them. Or my son will buy sort of like a stereo that doesn't work. So
I nearly bought a metal detector this weekend. True story. What I say next is true. The shaft was broke.
Oh, was it an Evo?
It was one of those, the old black models with the thing on top and the dial like that. No, your £15 ones. You're really.
Oh no!
It was what the shaft was held together with sellotape. I hate it when shafts held together with sellotape.
I did actually go to a boot sale just before COVID near me, and the money goes to veterans, which was quite nice. And there was a guy selling like camo gear, fishing gear, and he had loads of like clover butter containers there. And I looked over and I thought, what's he got in there? And he had crotal bells, buckles, sixpences, and so I looked at it. I said, "Are you a metal detectorist?" He went, "Yeah, how do you know?" And he was selling all these crotal bells. And I was quite surprised. People were buying them. And they were like, "Where'd you find these?" And he said, "Oh, I'm metal detect." And I went, "What, these are in the ground?" And I spent about half hour, 40 minutes talking to him. But people were buying them and painting them. And this was around Easter time and making like Easter trees with crotal bells on and stuff. It was quite bizarre. I never thought of that, but yeah, metal detecting, selling your stuff at boots.
There was a guy there this weekend. Honestly, he had 100 odd Roman coins. So I said, "Excuse me, pal, is that a hoard?" He went, "No, I'm a dealer. I buy stuff. So it's mixed coins." I said, "Oh, right." I said, "If I was to buy them all, how much would it cost?" Well, I'd sell me Roman coins £1 each, and there was about 140, 150. He said, "So you'd want 150 quid?" Yeah, around about that. I said, "See you, pal."
Yeah. It's not quite the same unearthing it at a boot sale as opposed to in the field, is it? But
definitely not.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, but you're right, James. What sort of things have you found at like a boot sale or an auction or whatever? What give us
I go for a lot of bronzes, especially the old Buddhas. I get old bronze Buddhas. Anything really that I recognise as being a good age, a good ancient age. And it's surprising how many people who are selling these things, they found it in a loft, someone's died, the house has been cleared, whatever, and they don't know what it is, So I find these things. I then do a lot of research on them. If they're good enough, I'll make a film about them and tell the history of these items as well. There's one that I've just put up, I think Dave may have seen it, is a silver alms badge from the almshouses. And it was being sold as a sterling silver religious badge. I did some research before I bought it. It's got written on the front, basically, the Archbishop of York, 1555. And it's got another date of 1687. It turns out it was issued on behalf of Robert Holgate, who was the Archbishop of York at that time. He was made Archbishop in 1545, and he went to prison in 1554 because he was a friend of Henry VIII. He believed in Henry VIII's way of sort of doing the Church of England, as he brought the Church of England because he couldn't get divorced. This guy, who was really a priest, couldn't marry, decided to get married because he was now in the Church of England. Queen Mary I came to the throne in 1553 and clamped him straight into the Tower for breaking his chastity. Now, he came out of the Tower in 1555 in January, bought himself out by £1,000 in cash from the Crown. He died in November 1555, but as he died, he gave a lot of money to build the almshouses and the hospitals, and these badges were worn, stitched onto the clothing of the poor people who came into the almshouses back in the late 17th century. So it's a good find, a really good find, and very rare as well. There's very few about.
Yeah,
so I've done a lot of research on that, and obviously I've actually contacted the people who still run the almshouses, let them know it exists, and we'll take it from there because it is a piece of their history too. There's very few, if any, of them left in the country that we know of.
It's almost like in 10 years' time, there'll probably be the National Council of Shop Detecting, because it's like metal detecting, isn't it? Going through all these shops and charity shops. You're waiting to unearth a bit of treasure. You get your ring pulls, you get your mood tubes, and then suddenly, bang, there's a nice
just one thing
nice
that you spot.
Yeah.
Just but it's really good. It's interesting because you're looking back into the past in a totally different way from metal detecting. I love metal detecting. As you say, there's nothing better than getting that buzz as they come out of the ground. I can remember years ago when I was working a site close to where we dug with Time Team, and I'd found 8 silver Roman coins, all Republican, and I was filming and I dug down, up come another one, and I just did a bit to camera and said, "We found 8 Roman coins on this site." "Well, not anymore. Here's number 9. And fresh to camera, a coin out of the soil within 10 seconds. It was there on YouTube, But of course, all these were reported to the fines liaison officers. Most of them went to Manchester Museum, including a Roman silver snake bracelet that were all declared treasure. But any items that came back that weren't declared treasure, I then gave to the landowner for himself to keep for his collection. It was really interesting.
James, just one quick question. What is your background? Because your videos are very professional, and you've seen them, Dave, haven't they, with the drone footage? Yeah. They're almost like I said, you're watching something on Channel 4 and Channel 5. And that's nothing horrible against ITV or BBC, but they don't show stuff that we like. So have you done this sort of filming before and editing?
It all started in 1999 when I came home one day, and there was when they used to do the big like minibuses with big satellite dishes on the roof. And I'd had a phone call to work saying, "Can you come home? Granada are here. They want to do a live broadcast on the 6:30 news about what you found." So I came home and it looked like a murder scene, all the white vans and the cables running down the roads. And I did a live from home, the camera crew in there, with Lucy Meacock on Granada Tonight. And when we'd finished the interview, she said in the earpiece, "That was really professional. Have you done this before?" And I went, "No, I've not done this before." And the guy who was filming it, who was a Granada cameraman, he said, "You are good. Do you want to buy a second-hand camera?" And I was like, do I want to waste money? I can't afford it. And so I took the plunge and bought the camera, started doing a few films of my own. Then I got taken on by Middlewich Town Council to make all the Roman Festival documentaries and Norman and Saxon festivals. Did that for 10 years. And in the background was doing my own films. So everything you see today is purely a result of being self-taught all the way through and learning new techniques and learning the editing side and everything. So on a typical day, like you saw the film there with St. Edith's, I turned up at 8 a.m., did all the droning between 8 and 9 a.m., did all the presenting up to 4 p.m. The film was finished and online 2 days later. And it's just getting into that routine of sort of script writing, presenting, editing. And the people I use for the music, AKM Music in Birmingham, I buy the music with licenses. And it got to the point a few years ago that when you used to do exhibitions, they used to use my films at the exhibitions to actually promote their music because it matched so well to what we're doing.
Do you mind me asking what video editing software you use?
I use, well, it's Coral. It's known as Coral now, but it used to be known as Pinnacle and Pinnacle Pro, Pinnacle Extreme. So the funny thing is you buy more and more of these editing programs and they come with more and more and more features. I use titles, video, voiceover, music, maybe an effect. And that's all you need unless you're trying to do something really, really sort of flashy. But that's what I use, just the 4 simple things.
Yeah, I've got Adobe. In my job, I have the Adobe Creative Suite, and I've got Premiere Pro and flipping heck. That's almost like, well, it's just ridiculous. It's overly complicated, and it's there's so many out there, and I think sometimes people go for the one with the most options, a bit like metal detectors, really, and you don't need all that. And sometimes it can just end up confusing you. So,
well, the latest one I run with, it's got 200 different effects. I use 6. Because the rest are not actually that. When you look at them, they're not that professional. You'd use them on your home video or something, So I just stick with the basics. But camera work, presenting, drone piloting, everything is something I've just taught myself over time, and then gelled it all into one. So it works well.
Yeah, you must have a hell of a lot. Because how many videos have you done? 600?
662 last night.
Oh, God, we're coming close to that number.
You're getting there, 666. Well, that'll be a church, won't it?
You're going to have to do a Luciferian one for that one.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting episode. That's all going to go wrong, isn't it? There's going to be interference.
That's when I come and make a film with you two guys.
Yeah, that could be, actually. Do that one at night.
Actually, Badger's about at night, mate. Badger's about.
Yeah, you got to watch him. Right, But
James,
I mean, it's really good. Go on, sorry, Dave.
What have you items that you've come across? We were talking about some of the things you've found, and it's one I've been watching the process from when you bought it until getting it home and everything else. Was the Norman font absolutely stunning? Tell us about the Norman font.
The hernia giver.
Font.
Yeah, the hernia giver. It was being advertised. This was being advertised on eBay by a guy that owned a farm down in Gloucester. And he'd put it on there. He didn't know what it was. He thought it might be a huge garden planter. And he put sort of stroke, maybe a font. I recognized from some of the photographs straight away these heads, 8 heads carved on it. Now, 8 heads is important because that is obviously can always be misinterpreted as something modern. But with 8 heads and the way they were carved, I could see that they looked pretty Norman. So hired a van, drove all the way down to Gloucester, thinking this guy had a fork truck, which he didn't. So it ended up It's a big van as well. It weighs, I reckon it weighs 800 to 900 pounds. It's over 3 foot wide, and as you can imagine, and 14 inches deep. So we managed to get it back here. It was in an orchard covered in leaves and grass where he'd left it for 10 years since he'd found it. Did a lot of work, as you say, with the videos. You saw it being brought back and unloaded and cleaned and researched. It's now literally dried. It took 6 months to dry the stone out, but you need to get it dry to preserve it. So at the moment it's in storage awaiting further examination in the summer, but I've had several experts, including stonemasons, who are quite happy that it's early Norman.
Fantastic.
Well, I'm going.
Well,
again,
saved bit of history.
Away, Dave. That would have rotted away eventually. The ice would have got to it and shattered it over time. So,
and there's so many of them. You know, we can watch salvage hunters, Drew Pritchard, going around the country to all these places and finding things similar. They're everywhere. They're strewn everywhere.
Yeah. Well, people don't realise that when the Saxons had a church, they had the font. When the Normans came, Saxon font, we don't want that. Turfed it out into the graveyard or into the field, whatever. Then, of course, we get into the medieval times. Even the Norman fonts are being removed. And it's a continual cycle of the new people that come into the church, the new generations, and they keep renewing. I mean, the biggest thing I find is some of the oldest churches look modern because the Victorians had a habit of coming along to an old church and basically going, right, we want to change this. It needs upgrading. We're cotton magnets, whatever you want to be. You know, we've got thousands, maybe millions of pounds. We want to do something for our community. I'll tell you what, we'll get the church rebuilt. And they knock down half the old church and build the new church on top. There's a church at Lymm in Cheshire where in the 1860s there was a Norman nave, 12th century nave. The Victorians blew it up with gunpowder so they could build a new part. And that's what I mean. They didn't care that much about the history during Victorian times or understand some of it. And they were quite happy to destroy things from ancient times just to put new things into the church.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Dave, I've got something. Sorry, James. We're giving a few things away tonight, just because I've got them laying around. Dave, you all right if I get rid of this?
Yeah, get rid of that. Now, please, if you are going to enter tonight's competitions, please be an Equinox user. Give the Equinox users a chance to win it. If you haven't got one, or even if you're planning to get one, please to participate. But if you're not, don't take a prize that somebody can actually use by taking part. I know what I meant.
And if you're watching this in December 2022, this competition doesn't apply. So this is the Equinox Arm Cup, aluminium arm cup from Detecting Innovations. So Google Detecting Innovations if you have got internet access. What am I talking about? They've got some really good stuff. They've got some really good stuff. We all know that there are certain issues with mine lab construction. So for this, James, can you see the chat at all, James, on your computer?
Yeah, I can.
Right. So someone guess one of the two metal detectors that James owns. We haven't mentioned it tonight on the show.
Ooh, I like that.
Person to mention one of the metal detectors that James owns, I will post this out to them tomorrow, first class, and they might even get it by the weekend if they're Saturday. So
if they live in Essex,
extra first class. That'd be extra first class for Saturday.
Now, do we want the brand or do we want the actual machine?
Brand will do for this.
Brand will do. Right, so we've
got
got
that, James. Have you seen anything?
Have a what? Sorry.
Have you seen? Well, hang on.
I'm just waiting to see if anything's come up yet.
Right, there's loads come up on the right-hand side of your comments. If you scroll up, the first one is Philip Wills Orcs, Scotty B. Rutus, Philip Wills Deus, Philip Wills Simplex, Marius Carrick Garrett, Martin Homan and Mine Lab, Scott the Bayonet Detector, Keith Merker C-Scope, Philip Wills and Knox. I can't see that one. Where's that? Oh, Marling Boog. Oh, and this is only open to people in the UK. Sorry, you didn't mention that.
Yes, UK only.
Garrett 80 Pro, Dark Knight Detectorist of Fisher, John Clayton of Fisher, I'm not
They
saying
not got
that,
it
Rob
yet,
Random.
Someone has
Philip
said
will-
it.
Who said it? Who said it?
You said it a minute ago, Dave.
Which one?
I can't see it on here, but you said it.
You tell me which one, and I'll find out who said it.
What, tell you the machine?
Yeah.
Well, I'll read them out.
Just done that. Tell us the machine. And
The
put your hand
C-scope.
up.
it's a C-scope.
But you
So
said
that
C-scope.
was the first person to
Keith
say that
Merck.
was Keith Merck.
Well done, Keith. Please tell me you live in the UK, not in Kazakhstan or Russia. Russia. Sorry, shouldn't be racist. Well, Keith Merck, can you just say that you're here still? And
Keith Merck, put your hand up, please.
Gone, had a bath or something. And then if you go to the bigdetectingshow.com website and go on the
Keith's
contact
still here. He's in Kent.
Brilliant. I haven't got that come up. And he lives only down the road from me. Brilliant, Keith. So go to the bigdetectingshow.com, go on the contact us, and in the message bit, put your name and address, and I'll get that sent out hopefully tomorrow to you. So well done. Thank you very much. And not forgetting, we still have got the Equinox control box flippable thing.
And we've also got a 4-way chuck key. Oh no, we didn't talk about that, did we? I'll forget. I'll forget that one. Cut that out. James. Edit that out.
We can carry on now, and I'll randomly drop in just after 9 to get rid of the other thing.
So the font, James.
Yeah.
Is that going to be conserved professionally, or you've got ideas that you can do that yourself?
Hello.
He's
back. You're back. You're back. Where did you go?
Back. It was you. You went.
I was still here.
I'll tell you what, James. Sell that private number plate and get a broadband increase.
Oh, okay then. Yeah. No, it's in storage for now until I can get any professionals who want to come and actually examine it. It's quite strange because I contacted the Portable Antiquities. I know it's not portable, to report this to them, what I found. Weren't interested. Didn't want to know. So I've now contacted some of the universities and I'm waiting now for some feedback, and then we'll have it looked at. I mean, what I'd like to do eventually, and I don't know if it'll ever happen, is if there was a church, I know it's not from a church, but there's a church in the area that would like to have this on display somewhere, I'd rather people could see it than me having it here in storage. So that would be a nice idea eventually.
Absolutely. Even maybe a church, you could find another building that's open to the public of similar age, maybe.
Yeah, where it could go on display, obviously.
You can see all that lit up, beautiful lit up, that.
Oh, it would do, yeah. And the beautiful thing about it is it's complete. There's one piece that's been put back on, but it's been put back on in ancient times, and they've used a kind of tar to stick it back in. But what happened on the rim, it's got 4 holes cut into the top, and as they've tried to put the holes in for a lid, that's what's caused the damage. Now, what happened in 1320, 1330, it was decreed that all fonts should have a lockable lid on because people were stealing the holy water for its properties, believe it or not. So they had to be locked. And what they did is they tried to modernize a lot of these earlier fonts. They just shattered the stone, when they're trying to fit them. So it does bear the marks of someone trying to actually do that as well. So that's sort of history. That's history built into the artifact itself. That it wouldn't have had those when it was made in the church, but as they've tried to sort of put the lid on, they've caused all the damage. That's what's done that.
It's interesting how you said the portable antiquities scheme, and it isn't portable. It's made me wonder now. Maybe they should set up the non-portable antiquities scheme.
The backbreaking, division. Yeah, but their take on it was because I didn't excavate it and didn't dig it up, it was of no interest to them, even though it'd been laying in a field covered in grass and all sorts for years. So that, they're saying, no, you've not dug that up. It's not a portable antiquity. We're not that interested. But I did report it. I did my best. So,
mental.
Yeah.
So I Just checking if there's anyone who's got any questions in the chat, David, because we haven't asked anyone if they've got any questions.
Yeah, if you do want to ask anything, I do have a question, James. When you've, it's going to be a big case to actually run out of churches. But do you plan on looking at other historical locations, wells, for instance, or buildings? Have you got a plan in the future for looking at anything else other than churches?
Yeah, I'll carry on with the churches because there's enough churches in Cheshire to keep me going another 2 or 3 years at least. But I've already started branching out. I've been to Llangollen, I've done Crucis Vale Abbey, I've been over to Shropshire, I've done Stokesay, I've done Ludlow. So castles, as you say, older buildings, timber frame buildings. I'm looking for more history stories as well as churches. Churches is a sort of a mainstream thing, but there is the option there now that COVID's sort of disappearing slowly but surely and restrictions are all lifting, to start doing various history features. But going back to what you said earlier about opportunities, I could be doing something for one radio station and they'll say, oh, we've got this, we'd like you to do this, and that will send me off in another direction then.
Yeah.
You know, because I fund and finance the whole of the channel, all the filming and the equipment and all the time. And when I was on the Mike Shaft show a few weeks ago, he said, and what do you think, when will the TV companies come knocking and asking you to do stuff? So I jokingly said, well, I'll just pop downstairs and ask your production team downstairs. But his serious point was that with a camera crew and everything else behind you, where could you take this? Because you can only do so much on your own, although I think I do quite a lot, you know. It's getting
there's a church near me, because I keep dropping you these hints on churches. There's a church near me, near to Bridestones, which you'll obviously know. Fantastic church, fantastic story to it. If you look at it from the from the aerial view, there's something behind it that we think it explains a lot, and it's I'll speak to you off there. I'll let you have that one. It's there's a lot of history to it, a lot of information that all your paranormalists run out there going, oh, it's this, it's that, it's the other. But when you look at the certain thing within this graveyard, and you look into it properly and you find out the actual history, it's quite revealing and quite astounding and very Masonic.
Right. But that's one thing I do notice, especially when I do all the drone filming, and often I will go 200 foot above the church and slowly do a full circle. And once you're up there, you can see so many other features in the fields and surrounding the church that you can't see from the ground that need looking at in the future. There's one I do at Rossburn Church near Tatton Park. And when I was filming there last year and I came up over the tower and went right up, in the other field where nothing is mentioned, there's a massive mound. Now, it looked like it could be a burial mound, a tumulus. But again, it's not marked on any maps, and it's certainly not something that the farmers put in there recently. And that just doesn't show from the ground at all, but from high up, it's as clear as day.
We've got a great one here for you for the use of the fonts. Why don't you store all Encyclopedia Britannica in it and call it the font of all knowledge?
Very good.
Angela Grace Shorrock asks, which church was your favourite and the most interesting?
Oh, God, everyone I do. You always think you've got a favourite and then you come to the next one. One that springs to mind that I did last year was at Barthamley in Cheshire. That church there has the story, and it's actual fact, that during the Civil War, one Christmas Eve, the villagers had been fighting with the parliamentarians, and parliamentarians had come through the village. They had all basically legged it to the church and thought the safest place is to get in the tower and go up towards the bells. So that's what they did. And fortunately, the parliamentarians turned up and decided they would light a fire at the bottom of the tower. All the smoke and fire was raising to the top. So obviously they pleaded for their lives, and the general decided, you can come down as long as you'll be our prisoners. So they came down, he lined them all up and cut all the throats. And that happened in Cheshire. And to this day, there's still plaques on the walls, and 18 people were murdered, you know, just in cold blood over Christmas. And then they left. The royalists went off the Royalists went after doing what they did, and they went into the village and carried on with the plundering over the next few days. So really, when it came to King Charles being executed, this is one thing that would have been brought up in his trial, because obviously his Royalist troops had chased these parliamentarians or villagers, but really what sparked it is one of the villagers decided to take a pot shot and he killed one of the Royalist soldiers. And of course, then they came in to avenge his death, and this is why we had all this problem in the tower. But that's a beautiful church inside, and when you go down to the bottom of the church, there's so many effigies to film and describe, and that's what I love, is the mixture of showing you the outside of church, explaining the history of that church, and then being able to take you inside the church and take you to see things that you wouldn't normally see, even if you were visiting the church. So I go into bell towers, I go into private rooms, I get to see things that may have been found but have been put in the cellar and that sort of thing. So it's really telling the history of the church, but also exploring what's not being told yet. And the church registers, they have so much information as well.
James, out of interest, have you been to any churches where the tower is round?
No, not in the Cheshire area, not yet. So I've not spotted any of those yet.
I've got one on one of my permissions detecting. It dates back to the 1100s, and rather than square, it's round, and it's got
like a turret.
Turret style church. Going back to what you said, that was knocked down in the 1300s and rebuilt. The wall is made of, around the church is made out of the original church, but it's got
so just reuse the material.
Yeah.
Because what you find. Go on, you're okay. Carry on.
So what's interesting is, obviously, when I got the permission to detect around, not on the church, because it's quite rare. The church is owned by, obviously, Church of England, but the land around it isn't, which is quite rare, really. It's literally, I can detect within 100 foot of the church, and there's a hell of a lot of history around there, and there's some really good finds. But it made me research the church more, and because I looked at it and I thought, it's got a round turret. It looks like a castle. And there's so much history on it, and hence I found out that the wall's made of the original church. But it's like, as a metal detectorist, as soon as like someone says, "Oh, I've got a permission," there's a church there, or the church was the key place, wasn't it? It was like the Facebook of today, but as a building.
And the number of churches with pot marks from the musket balls from the Civil War, it's every other church. So if you're getting on land that's very close to that church, you probably start picking up musket balls, that sort of thing anyway.
It's got everything around there, musket balls, Roman. I'm quite fortunate to have that, but it's a nice area as well, and it's a lovely thing to look at. But there's a little plaque outside the church that details the history. If you're in Essex one day, not that you want to come down here probably, but give us a shout, and I'll say it's open in the day, and you can go in and walk around. But it's beautiful, it's lovely. We got some nice churches.
Because what I found with I've done over 70 churches now, and the main pattern that runs through the majority of the churches, they were built normally on top of a timber Saxon church, built in the 11th and 12th century. They're always rebuilt or remodeled in the 14th century. And then again, around about the 16th and 17th, they get done again. And then the Victorians come along and they totally refurb the whole thing, knock walls down, rebuild walls, put all new insides. So they do follow this pattern, most of the churches. But you do get a few like the one at Shotlack that Dave showed at the beginning of the programme. That's one that's never been modernised. It was built in the 11th century, 12th century. It's had a few little changes, doorways, etc. But because it's so far off the beaten track, it never really got anybody coming down and trying to remodernise it. In fact, it fell into disrepair for 100 years or so, and then they just re-roofed it and carried on. So that's preserved, and a lot of the inside of that church is still the original furniture, original fittings from the 13th and 14th centuries.
Bit like lottery funding today. I've got a lovely church near me, and it had beautiful pews, and they were like family pews, like the local families, wealthy families would have their own pews, and it had their signatures carved in it and everything. And then they got a lottery grant, and they ripped it all out, and they've got these cheap Chinese seats in there now. And I don't know where the pews went. Well, I do. The pub brought a few, and they ended up in
just
country houses. But
I filmed at Shottock in Cheshire a few weeks ago. There's a church there, and what's amazing about that church, it's still got iron rings in the wall where the ships and boats used to tie up on the River Dee. Now you go there now, the River Dee doesn't exist because in 1737 they built a canal section of the River Dee and sent it miles away so they could reclaim all the land around the church. But you've still got the marks and the carvings in the wall and all the marks and rope marks from where the boats were tied up. Yet today from the air, you wouldn't know there was ever a river near there. And it was a ford, a crossing point during ancient times. But when you go in that church, they've still got the box pews with the brass plates, with, as you say, the names of the families on each one and locks. So they have survived.
Wow.
James, I've been making a few notes while we've been talking. I'm reminded of a few things. Yeah. And there's 4 churches in particular that stand out for me in Cheshire. It's a hell of a lot of churches. There's so much history I don't know about. The first one is St. Winifred's in Neston. St. Teresa Higginson. She was people were going there from Victorian times from miles and miles away to visit the grave because they were healing and whatnot from the grave, allegedly. St. Mary's in Asbury, one in the video, completely, massively underrated. People don't realise the significance of that church and how big, what parts of it there is, etc. St. Peter's in Swettenham with its hidden tunnels, and St. Bartholomew's at Thursterton with its hidden tunnels too.
Well,
some just things top of my head.
Yeah, St. Peter's is on my channel as well as the 500th film, I think. My 600th film was a special from there, and I actually went into the bell tower and filmed the clock and the bells and all the different things within that church, as you say. And it's sort of it's isolated almost, isn't it? You've got the pub at one side and you've got a few houses on the other side, but that's got a Saxon cross built into the wall on the inside that they found when they were digging out the floor to do some repairs. So it's all there, just waiting to be discovered.
Would you call yourself religious, James, seeing obviously you do spend so much time in religious places?
I wouldn't say I'm deeply religious in any way, but I could say I'm spiritual. I do believe there's something, but I'm not so sure that I believe everything about the Bible and the way that all works. But certainly there's something. I mean, you look at as one church I did over Pever, and they'd found a statue of a priest that was hidden inside a wall, and it's from the 14th century. And they actually put it in the wall, bricked it over to keep it secure. And then 400 years later, when they're doing the building work, they pulled this statue out, completely painted perfectly, 6-foot stone, and decided to scrub it with a scrubbing brush to clean it, and took all the paint and all the ancient materials off it. You know, and again, that was in Victorian times. But there's so many things in churches. I love going in churches and going, yep, there was a door there once. There was a door there once. Oh, that window's disappeared. And you can see the clues and the traces. And the one at Chocolat, when you go there and you've got the Norman doorway with all the beading, and you think as you walk to the door, God, it's only about 4'5", this door. How did it get through? I know they're smaller in those days. But then you realise as you do your research, the floor within the church has been raised 2 foot when the Victorians came along and redid the flooring. So there's a gap of sort of where they've raised it, which makes the doorway smaller. But the original stone floor, if you get a torch, you can actually still see parts of the medieval floor under the floorboards.
Do you know what? Talking of St. Edith's in Chocolat, that is my favourite church. And talking not spiritually, but metaphysically, James, I've witnessed some very, very peculiar and profound things there. I really have. Some of the stories I can tell you about that. I've actually witnessed there a time slip. It's very well known for it. I've witnessed it, and it was quite jaw-dropping, to say the least.
Yeah, but it's certainly again, it's
another
church. One, I'm saying it's a church that's out in the middle of nowhere, isn't it? Again.
Oh yeah, massively.
Yeah,
Dave.
Yeah.
What's profound? What kind of profound things?
People experiencing. It's hard to say without sounding right. there's an episode, I will share it with you, of Ghost Cases, which was a Canadian TV series, which I was part of the team on when they came over to film in the UK. And basically that episode tells everything about it. I will find the episode. It's on Vimeo and whatnot, and I will share that to you, and you can watch it for yourself. But it's I witnessed a time slip, right? I was on my way there to visit, and there was a massive thunderstorm in the summer, and then it suddenly stopped, the thunderstorm, and obviously the atmosphere, you know, full of energy after the thunderstorm. And me and a friend were talking, and his daughter. So, James, you'll know the area perfectly. You know where the little bench is at the clock tower?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were sort of like that area there with the corner. If you look at that head on to the left-hand side of the church there, we were sort of in line with this corner, set a little bit back. And his 7-year-old daughter at the time ran round. So we sort of go round the back corner there, and automatically she came out the next the corner straight by us.
Right.
So
there was a massive there is an old doorway on that side that's bricked up as well, isn't there? And it's got a carving above it, you know, and that's an old door through the church.
But the fact that this event took place and we were both like, and it was just like one of them moments. That's one of the most profound things I've ever witnessed. But St. Edith's, there's some stories mostly discussed in that episode of Ghost Cases, by the way. So I'll be sure to drop that over to you. But what John Clayton says, do you remember the time team dug up a monastery in Doddleston, Chester? That was my detecting farm until time team shown up, and he couldn't dig on it anymore.
No, it doesn't surprise me. You know, and there was always rumours, wasn't there, of sites being seeded after they'd been, you know, with aluminium discs, that sort of thing. You know, but having not been back on the Warburton site since, I wouldn't know. But when I found the actual Roman, we'll call it hoard, it was 8 silver coins. They were found not where time team dug, but about a mile away next to the river. You know, so that's a site that is deep ploughed. I'm not sure if they've been putting night soil on it in the last few years now, which of course will basically raise it because of the river flooding. So anything that's good on that site is probably 3 to 4 foot down now if they've put that night soil on. You know, so that's maybe what's happening.
John Clayton said, did you know St. Mary's Church, where my parents are buried, Dave, you might know this, there is a World War II plane sitting in the trees?
Where's that,
Which
John?
St. Mary's?
Yeah,
there's millions of St. Mary's.
That's my church. There's quite a few of them. But how amazing is that? That is amazing. A World War II plane sitting in the trees.
God, find that with your detector.
We should get John on the show, Dave.
Find out where it is.
John can come, and anyone can come at any time they want. It's an open show. Talk about whatever you want. Talk about beekeeping if you want. Don't talk about
under a tarpaulin. God, wow. Oh
Where's that then, John?
That's
in Mary's Church. Where?
Chain gunners.
Oh, no, it's not under the tarpaulin. The place is called Under Tarpaulin.
Oh,
really? Okay. Adrian.
How did Adrian fall for that then?
Look, I struggle getting past Birmingham, so yeah, that's really good. But going back to what you were saying, James, about going in the church, when I go to a wedding or sadly a funeral or something, obviously my thoughts are with the people there and what's going on, but I look at all the area around me, and from the step that comes into the church where it's like a huge great bit of stone, and you've got like a dip like that from the feet that have worn it down over the years.
Worn it down over time.
Yeah, you've got the pews with like people scratching their names in it and stuff like that, which was really bad in the day. It must have been graffiti and all that. And I know I'm not heavily religious at all. I believe, like yourself, I believe in something, but we all have the process like buying something off eBay. You know, you're born, you die, you get buried or cremated, and that's it. But churches to me, they've got so much history, and the thing that gets me when you said about tunnels, my local pub, which is like 5 minutes, church, which is 5 minutes down the road from me, there's a tunnel from the church to the pub.
Good idea.
The rumor is that the Peasants' Revolt. I live in Essex, and a lot of people met up for the Peasants' Revolt, and they hid and they went through the tunnels. But there's also stories about how the priests and or whatever used to go down there to the pub. But these tunnels now go in nice cottages, which la-di-da people have moved in, and they've just blocked them all up and filled them all up. It's all lost, the history, and it's so sad. But you must find. Would you say a lot of churches have got tunnels that you visited?
I think they've got bolt holes, especially, and some do have tunnels, because a number of churches I go to, and the local church warden will say, "Oh, there's tunnels here. We can't get into them, but we know they exist, and they run off in this direction or this direction." So I'm sure that they did, especially at the time of the Reformation and that sort of thing, where people wanted to get away quickly if they had to do. But it's strange that some legends and myths continue. I was filming at Shottick a few weeks ago, the one that's near where the River Dee was. And when you go in the church, there's a west door, a south door, and a north door. Now, the north door has great big planks rammed into the wall, so you can't use the door in or out. And if you look back into the history, in the medieval times, they believed it opened onto hell. And on that side of the churchyard were buried all the murderers, the rapists, and the illegitimate children. So it became known as the Devil's Door. And to this day, when you go into the church filming, it's eerily black with a red curtain across it, but these big timbers to block it off. And that means that over the time, it may be a legend, it may be a myth, but it's stuck in the minds of the people of that church. And that door is never, ever opened at any time.
Wow.
Crazy.
That is amazing. Sorry to butt in, but I've got a
you got your other giveaway, haven't you?
Yeah. So this is it's a
ghost.
This is the Detecting Innovations arm cup control box. No, it's not an arm cup, you idiot. It's the control box. So your control box on your Equinox is like that, and with this it can go like that and fit under the arm cup. So the question is, this is a nice bit of kit, one of the best things I've ever had in metal detecting, because at the end of the day, making your machine compact, fitting in your boot, fitting in your rucksack is brilliant. This is going to go away to the first person. So this is a folding control box adapter from Detecting Innovations. The first person in the chat who tells me how much it costs, excluding postage and packing. Sorry, James. Just it's like I get these.
Carry on, Adrian.
I get these things, and I could put them on eBay and make 70 odd quid, 80 quid out of that.
You've got answers coming in already.
Has he asked the question yet?
Yes. How much does it cost? I'm sure.
Right.
You could just go to the website and look at it. Detecting Innovations. Oh, someone's close. Someone's very close. Let me just check.
Here we go. He hasn't got the right answer. James, I have. Okay. James, I've just actually sent you a picture that I came across on Facebook today of a news report from, I think it was the early 80s or the late 70s, from Thurston, St. Bartholomew's in Thurston, of the news clippings of when they actually workmen found the tunnels.
Right.
So I just sent you that over. Have you got one yet, Adrian?
No. Equinox folding control box adapter from Detecting Innovations, and they've got 69 in stock, and there's the price. Oh no. Are people dyslexic? Tony Kaywood. No, not €100. It's from a British company. Suffolk Searcher. No, sorry. This is just go to detectinginnovations.co.uk and it's on there. I don't know if we got a delay. Oh, Philip Wills, you lucky monkey. He's got it. 34.96.
Hold on. Philip, have you got a Knox? Let's be honest.
No, he's got a lot. He's got an air detector.
Oh, how close was Scotty B? You got the numbers the wrong way round.
Oh no, Philip, you don't have a Knox, do you? No, but he's lucky.
Scotty, it wasn't. You got the numbers the wrong way round.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, Philip, I think Philip has got a Knox. He's got quite a few machines. So Philip, you've won before. Paul Tongue, sorry, bit late. Philip, that'll be in the post to you. And Keith Merck, oh, you cheeky monkey, you've already won, Keith. So well done. Oh, that's very nice of Philip Wills. Donate it to someone who needs it then. Oh, that's nice of him. What do I do, Dave?
Well, Scotty B got it, but we know Scotty B gets his letters wrong sometimes.
Keith Merck, can I swap it for the cuff? Oh.
Scotty B did get it first, but as I say, he got the numbers the wrong way around, and that can be explained, can't it?
Has anyone got a problem with Scotty B getting it? Because he is giving away a ticket to Detecticon for charity. So if anyone's got a problem, say that.
Take it up with Scotty B or bite your ankles.
Yeah, thank you, Tidy Treasure Hunter. Scotty B, mate, you sat there in your pants tonight watching it, drinking your
space pants. Space pants.
Yeah,
not any pants, space pants.
Right, all done. We'll move on. There's no rules on this. It's free entry. And oh god, Tony K.
Oh god, when I've scored, haven't they?
Football. God,
that's not football.
Soccer,
where can I do that? I can do that.
Oh
yeah, all right.
Anyway,
I can block.
Thank you very much for those who tried.
I can block the user, or I can put them on a timeout. I can put them on the naughty step, couldn't I?
Sorry, Andy Elliott, James.
Just reading that myself.
Any churches that have a raised threshold that you have to step over to enter the church? I've heard this, Andy. Supposed to trip the devil up so he did not enter. I've heard this. I've
come across church steps that may be 2 or 3 inches above where they should be, but whether they're not there for tripping purposes or that's just a general way that's been laid, I'm not sure. But you do get, as you say, a lot of steps that go down very quickly and are worn, and you can see that they're going down deeper than the floor you're walking on. So that's what I tend to find. I've not found any that are substantially higher.
It makes sense, James, what you're saying there. Obviously, where things have been changed later on, it could be classed as a trip, and obviously mythology and folklore is put into place to make it nice for the Church of England and stuff like to add to their other lives. Their other stories.
I have heard that though about to trip the devil up. I've heard that because nowadays we're very thoughtful of people with disabilities and things, and I've seen a couple of churches I've been to at weddings where they got ramps for wheelchairs because the step is quite high and it's raised. So maybe I don't know. But what we think of the devil now, we just think of someone who gets drunk on a Friday night and gets in a fight. Whereas in those days, it was they believed in it, didn't they? Heavily.
Yeah. Well, not just that. Remember the conversation we had with Dr. Christopher Monk a couple of weeks ago, where he was talking about medieval monsters and demons. Their thoughts on that in them days were completely. It pales in significance what we think of them today, and that would obviously involve that sort of thing as well.
Well, this is where all your gargoyles came in, wasn't it? Gargoyles and what have you. You had to fear the church. In some ways, the church was everything. You had to fear the church, and if you didn't do as you were told, the church had to make income, and if they could scare you to death and make that income, that's exactly what they would do.
Yeah, I've got a gargoyle on a fire poker, which is about 200 years old. and they're funny old things near my fire. And I've got a quick story. No one will want to hear it, but I'll say it anyway. When I was about 14, I was in the Sea Cadets. Yeah, jokes, flares, and all that, and shunters or whatever. And I went on a sailing weekend, and we stayed in a church overnight, and there was a thunderstorm. And I can remember I was only like 13, 14, and we got freaked out. And a couple of the boys were like teaching me how to smoke, which, you know, you used to do back in the day, didn't you? And lightning and wind hit this church, and one of the gargoyles fell off and landed in front of us. And it was about, well, it was big. It was like sort of 18 inches. And ever since then, I've just looked at them. They've fascinated me. I mean, what is the background of gargoyles? James?
Gargoyles themselves are purely for drainage. The water comes. It's a spout. It's a water spout, really, to remove the water from the church. You know.
But why did they have that funny thing on the end? The like dragon devil thing.
Yeah, that's the as you say, that's the gargoyle. It's, as Dave said, they're the monsters. You know, you had to fear the church to some point. You had to fear hell. So what they do is they build the churches like this, and it's part of the Gothic system, isn't it? And you know, you come to church, you're told don't repent. You know, don't sin, repent your sins, all this sort of stuff. And it was an industry. The church was an industry, and to some point today it is. But as obviously people stop going to churches as much nowadays, so many churches are closing too. You know, and as you say, this is why all the pews are being sold off. There's
well, I've got an answer to this, and if the Church of England are watching, right, I've got a big answer to this. No one's going to church anymore. They're struggling to get funding. They've got a lot of land and a lot of big buildings. A lot of people go to church with problems. Historically, they've got problems, whether it's mental health or divorce or whatever, drink problems. So in the day, or like 10 o'clock, turn them into pubs, because you'll have church folk there who will be able to talk to them. The vicar will be able to talk to them. And let's face it, at the end of the day, people with a problem go to the pub. So turn all the churches into pubs, because they're designed for it. You know, you could even smoke in there because they've got a lot of big roofs and that. And I think churches, and because you used to drink in churches, they used to drink, didn't they? Many years ago, but then it disappeared. Because it was a communal place where everyone got together and met. And I think pubs should have like Stella on tap and stuff like that. And then,
well, you go into all the churches now. You go down the nave where the altar is and the big window. In medieval times, as you say, that was the church when it needed to be the church. But the rest of the time, that was basically the community centre. And you see some of these churches, they've got 3 and 4 doors that they don't use anymore at the side, where those who had a bit more money could bypass everybody else queuing up to use that as the community centre. And on some of the churches, you see, especially if they're near big estates, there's a door behind the choir stalls where the landed gentry would come in the horse and cart, get out of the horse and cart, go and take the communion, get back and go. And of course, they've jumped the queue of everybody else in that church. You know, and they had private boxes, this sort of thing. You know, it's a different
James,
system.
I've got a question. Sorry, Adrian.
Sorry, go on, Dave.
Angela Sherwin asks, and I know this church very well. It's opposite the Davenport Arms, which my wife's mum and dad had for 15 years, and my wife was born and raised. Remember me, James and St. Paul at Martin.
Yeah.
You've done that one, haven't you? I remember seeing that.
Fantastic church. And I love that church because that's one of the first churches I used the drone on. And what I did, I flew over back. There's a lake behind the church. So I flew right down over the lake and came in just above the water and swept straight up over the trees into the church and then around it. But as you say, it's a fantastic church and fantastic history. And of course, as you come out the side doors, there's a massive table tomb to the vicar who died in 1813. You know, but it's a place you can hardly imagine it, Adrian. There's a few cottages around one side. There's the vicarage. It's up on a hill and it drops down. There's a massive lake. And in that lake, I know for a fact from doing research before I filmed the church that they did find Roman material within the lake itself. So its history goes back phenomenally far. Yeah, you know, it's a beautiful church. It really is. Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Do you know how I actually came across James, Adrian? I noticed a video popped up of Siddington Church, which is about a mile and a half up the road, James.
Yeah, that's the one.
And it's where me and my wife got married, and that's how me and James came to get to know each other, is because he'd done an episode at the church we got married. So I got to, and sadly, very, very sadly, James, Mr. What was his name? Rushton? It was Rushton,
the guy
wasn't
that
it?
Did the corn
yeah,
dollies.
I don't know. The corn. He kept the tradition of corn dollies going on.
That's
until
right.
very recently, when he passed away last year.
Yeah. And that was really sad, because when I filmed at that church, the church warden said to me, told me all about what he did and that, and said, I'd love you to interview him for the record, but he's not well enough at the moment. So that's a missed opportunity. If he'd been well enough or he got slightly better, we would have done an interview with him to go with that film. But unfortunately, he wasn't well enough at the time, which is such a shame, because that would have been a great addition to the film.
And at that time of the year, Adrian, if it's still getting dressed now, obviously since he's passed away, if somebody is still dressing it, his wife or other church members, I'll take some photographs of inside for you. It's absolutely phenomenal. You've never seen anything like it. There's just corn things everywhere, not children.
Yeah, no, but if anyone wants to have a look at that film that I've done on Siddington, you'll find it in one of the History Walk series. I don't think it's a ramble, it's a History Walks. I think it's series 2 or 3. But as you say, Dave, we've got the whole inside of that church filmed, and it's beautiful, black and white timbers throughout, and it's just so atmospheric and ancient. Yeah, really nice. It's worth a look.
Got married there, Adrian.
I got married in a church.
No way.
Oh, no, yeah. James, just one quick question. All the churches you visit, like I go into my local church, and there's like tombs that are raised, and like dependent on the wealth of the family and the person who passed away, you get some huge ones. And I don't mean like Del and Rodney from Fools and Horses, where they painted it luminous, but why suddenly did they disappear? Obviously, because of because you can go to a local church and you'll see these huge tombs with angels, and it's like massive off the ground, and then suddenly they stopped in probably the 1800s. Is there a reason behind that, or have you found someone who died in 1984 who's suddenly got?
You're right. The biggest ones all seem to stop round about the late 1800s, early 1900s. But you'd notice that a lot of them from very big families in the area. And some of them, the families may have mill owners or big business owners, and they would do all these big tombs. And you get them around here, but obviously they're often linked to Tatton Hall or to Capesthorne Hall or any of the big houses. But what I find quite interesting is you learn when you're doing these churches, because you're researching, the way that the families worked and the way that people would be married into families on purpose for land ownership, that sort of thing. And I did one at Backford in Cheshire, not far from Chester, and I covered a story where a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old were married at the church in the 1500s, purely so that the two families could keep all the land together. And in those days you could get married at that age. Today it'd be frowned on, really badly, but it was all done because it was land ownership, titles, that sort of thing. And you see it with Tatton Hall down here, the Edgertons and all the different families. They're all intermarried all the way through the centuries, and it's all just to keep the estates together, or to grow the estates in some ways.
Yeah, it just if I was very wealthy, I'd have the hugest, probably plastic and lead, sort of something that wouldn't biodegrade well, and it'll be there. But some of them look beautiful. They're really nice, especially the ones that got railings round and everything. But they've disappeared now.
Most of the railings have disappeared during the war, didn't they?
Well, yes,
the railings around the churchyards and the walls were all cut down for the war effort, never replaced.
There's some in London. I think it's near Barbican. I can't remember the church. The railings are actually made out of stretcher handles.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, the old stretchers used. You can still see. In fact, that book that I got a couple of weeks ago, which has disappeared. No, it's not. No, that's not it. There it is. Secret London is actually a picture of them in that.
Yeah,
I was reading it the other day.
It's almost like someone nicking your Mercedes and replacing it with a Fiesta, isn't it?
But they've stood there for how many years now? 70 years, Adrian? And they're still there today, them stretches.
Still there today, still going strong.
And they got more interest than probably the normal metal railings that were there. So, really good.
Well, I've got got another 20 episodes of Rambles Through History to film this year. So it's going to be a pretty busy late spring right through summer. But we've got some crackers because we're not now just sticking to Cheshire. We're going out into Merseyside. We'll be going into Lancashire and again into North Wales and different places. So we're starting to expand it now because Cheshire's great. There's a massive story there now to be told in Cheshire, which I'm covering, and I'm still going to keep topping it up with more and more because it's becoming a resource for the future. You imagine people 50, 60, 70 years down the line, I'm sure these films will still be knocking around. And to be able to go back and then look, what did the church look like in the year 2010 or 15? They'll be able to go and see it in HD and a full explanation, you know. So I have it the other way, where I'm researching backwards into old newspapers and documents that way. You know, there's not much film work of churches back in the 40s and 50s. Tell you what, Dave, I don't know if I sent it to you. I'll send it to you again if I can find it. I found a black and white film, a Pathé film on Cheshire churches that was recorded in 1952. So I'll dig that out and send it to you. And it's got Lower Fever, Siddington, and all these. And seeing them back then, you know,
wow,
you do see changes. You do notice changes. So I'll get that over to you.
Yeah, it's true, James. I think that because my father's passed away, but my mum's still about. But I look and think all I can look at them is just photos. Whereas in 20, 30 years' time, my kids will probably be, no, not 20, 30 years, hopefully. In 50 years' time, my kids will probably be looking at me as a hologram in the lounge from a 4K YouTube video and laughing, probably talking about this show tonight. It's documenting the evidence. It's, you know, YouTube, mind you saying that, we thought we'd never run out of petrol or anything, but YouTube's not going to go anywhere. It's going to be there. It's going to
grow, isn't it?
So you're right. What we're doing now is history.
Yeah. I also work on a book by Raymond Richards that he wrote in 1947 on old Cheshire churches. It's a massive book. It's 300 or 400 pages. And he's written about them. He's took photographs in that time. So I'm sort of marrying up what he did, but I'm doing it in a brand new tech way. And I'm covering the churches again, but obviously with drone footage, flying around the churches, examining what's within the churches and around the churches. And this, as you say, is going to be a video HD form of that book at some time in the future. You know, but the thing is, I've always kept it that the films are totally free. I could have advertising on the films. I'm able to do that, but I just don't, because I don't know if you noticed lately on YouTube with some films now, you can't get past 2 minutes without an advert popping up every minute or so and ruining the experience completely.
That's why I throw them in at the start.
Yeah, that's what I mean, Dave. But, you know, some I've tried to watch, and within 2 minutes, there's a 2-minute advert that you can't skip, a bit more, and then you just lose interest in the end. So I always say it's the people's history. It's free to the people. I don't care if I make any money from it or not. The idea is to put it out there and let people see the history for themselves. There's such a love of churches out there, and I get such a following of people that do church crawling. I do church crawling, but in a different way with the filming. But this is why the National Churches Trust and Explore Churches are using the stuff that I'm doing, because it's really giving other people the flavour to get out there. The churches want people to go and visit. They don't want you to just go and pray. They obviously want you to go and take a look around at the history. And the rub-off for them is obviously if 200 people go to that church next week to have a look at the history, there's always a donation box somewhere near the door, isn't there?
Yeah, James, I can certainly tell you it's inspired me. I'm being too lackadaisical and lazy, and there are so many places locally to me that you've done videos of, and it certainly give me a kicks up the carsey to go and visit a few more than I should. Keith Merck, I don't know if James has looked at Masonic history, but there's some Masonic videos on the ArkMD Mag YouTube channel, ArkMD Mag and the Big Detecting Show, I think it's called. James, I've got a book for you. When I finally meet up with you, if you haven't got it already, it's an 1895 book called Bygone Cheshire by William Andrews.
Oh, brilliant. I've not got that one.
It's an absolutely stunning book, but I'm never going to have any use on it. It's just going to sit on a shelf. And I think it would actually do you better than it would me, because there's a lot of beautiful information and beautiful old drawings in it as well.
Brilliant.
James, can you point people to where they can best find your work and other information?
Yeah. Okay. Now, I'm also the history columnist for Cheshire Life, and I've just started my 3rd year doing that. So you've got various options here. You can go to my Facebook page, which is the best way is just to type in @Historyman Cheshire Life, all one word, and that will take you straight to that page where you'll see all the things I'm doing in Cheshire Life, all the stories that I'm writing, and of course all the publications that are coming out from the magazine that I'm doing. If you want to see any of the films or all of the films, they're there all the time and they're free. And you simply go to youtube.com/TV presenter for history. So that's the number 4, TV presenter for history, all one word. And that will take you straight to my channel, or just put my name into YouTube, James Balme. That'll take you there too. Now, when you get on the channel, you're not faced with 650 films wondering what to do. They're all in playlists. So you've got Rambles Through History, History Walks Series 1, 2, and 3. Then you've got the TV and media work that I do. And then you've got various ones going down for Time Team and metal detecting. So they're all there free of charge at any time. And of course, if you've got a smart TV, you can switch onto your smart TV. They're HD. You can watch them in full screen resolution. And they're absolutely fantastic in the respect that the content is really, as Dave says and Adrian says, the content is good. But what I love about doing it on the big screen is that the quality and the clarity of the films are spot on.
Fantastic.
Yeah, sign up. Perfect.
Well,
right.
Yes,
we're actually
subscribe.
Absolutely.
Subscribe, it's
absolutely.
Free.
And like our show, people forget, just give us a thumbs up, because me and Dave get like 2p for every like.
And share the word. Share the word of the
Okay.
Big Detecting Show and the Archaeology and Metal Detecting Magazine.
Well, we are the world's biggest UK's biggest online metal detecting show with like 2 people watching. But thank you very much, James. It was lovely.
Well, what I'll do as well, Dave and Adrian, if I've got any new TV stuff coming up or any history stuff I'm doing, say for the radio stations or whatever, I'll pop it onto the page so people know how to get to it and listen to it or watch it. And then you're always kept up to date with what I'm doing.
Yeah, you're welcome to share anything you want on there anytime, James. You know that. So that's brilliant. We've actually run 10 minutes over tonight, and we could have probably gone on a couple of hours more easily.
Well,
it's gone quick.
And just as a reminder, the one that I'm doing that's coming out at the end of the May, that is a really big thing. It's probably one of the biggest films I've done, one of the most historical and archaeological contexts that's going into my films. And you'll be astounded when you see it, because a lot of the stuff that's going to be in there has been excavated over the last 12 months. And to date, it's not gone on public display, but it will be doing May, June time for anybody who wants to go and see it free of charge. But I'll let all those details out as we come out with the magazine and we come out with a new film on that. And as I say, that'll be around about the end of May.
Awesome.
Brilliant. Thanks, James.
Well, James, can't thank you enough for coming on again. And obviously, our doors are open any time for you to come back. Just give us a shout when you've got any updates. And we will be back same time, same place next week. Hopefully with the Grim Bleeper, I'm hoping. He said yes, but I didn't get a confirmation because I forgot. So hopefully we'll have him with us next week. So again, James, thank you very much. Adrian, have a delightful weekend.
Can I just say something?
Certainly, darling.
Can I just say well done to Keith Merck and Scotty B for winning the Equinox sorry.
The Equinox shit?
No,
that's a new product.
The control box and the arm cuff. Scotty B for the control box. And thank you to detectinginnovations.co.uk for giving us those, and also Treasure Hunting Magazine, which I've written about those in this month. And if you haven't got it, get a copy because this month, look at this, James. Oh, metal detecting the Tower of London. What the hell? I mean, that is, if that's not a great read, blow me. And I must just say, Dave, my mate James, not James, Steve Newman, Metal Detecting Madness. He's a nutter, and he'd be good.
Steve Newman, that man needs to come on. He's got some stories.
Oh my lord! Yep.
I will leave that to you, Adrian.
Yep.
Sign him up.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for watching, and good luck this weekend out in the field. And thank you ever so much, James, for coming on tonight. Really appreciate it.
Brilliant.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks again, everyone. Good night.
Cheers.